not-so-friendly reminder that the hardest working person in the room isn't the one who gets promoted at all. It's the person who knows how to play the game. And we got the rules. For all of the no-fluff advice for getting ahead in your career without losing your mind, listen to Clock In with Emily Durham wherever you get your podcasts.
Keep your wellness routine going strong all summer. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition wherever you are, with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and more. Simplify your daily ritual. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is wild.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Hello, and welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the spiciest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they'd transpired today? I'm your co-host, Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm your other co-host, Sadaf Hassan. And today we are digging into one of the most famous Canadians alive, one of my favorites, a boy who was discovered on YouTube, mentored by Usher, screamed at by millions of teenage girls. Bullied by millions of teenage boys and grown adults, arrested, redeemed, married, diagnosed, memed endlessly, conspiracy theorized, and eventually a father, believe it or not, and a husband. I am talking, of course, Sarah, about Justin Bieber. My one, my only. I'm a big, big fan. We're going to get into your fanhood in a second. Now, we've talked about Justin before and his perpetual love triangle with former love Selena Gomez and current wife Hailey Bieber, who I also personally enjoy. But it's finally time for us to dig in to the boy becoming man. This story is one of the clearest examples of what happens when a child becomes an industry before he becomes a person. He was the first true internet-made pop star, and he also became one of the first celebs whose adolescence was consumed, judged, and punished in real time, all online. Before we dig in, Sarah, I gotta ask, are you a believer?
No.
I'm not shocked.
My experience with him was, his first big single, what's it even called? This is how much
Baby?
Baby. Yeah, it's called Baby. I was
Iconic.
Yes. I was like, is it called Baby, or am I just thinking that because that's all he says?
It lives free in everyone's brain.
Mine too.
And you'd only need to know that lyric because he says it 10,000 times. Yeah.
Well, there are no adjectives, right? He's like, I'm like, baby, baby, baby. Oh, like that's what, how does he feel? Anyway, I was once abducted by these rich kids in London who I sang that in karaoke, and it was such a successful party trick, like me, the Canadian girl singing Baby, that they just made me stay for 3 more hours and sing them karaoke songs.
Okay,
fascinating. This is as a thing that happened to me. I couldn't figure out why I had to keep doing it. I was really concerned I wasn't going to be allowed to leave, but I was eventually at like 3 a.m.
Sarah, maybe later for bonus.
So that was my introduction to him. So I have a lot of trauma tied up with Justin Bieber. It's kind of appropriate because he's a person who's been through a lot of trauma. I mostly know him as a personality that you have to know about to be pop culturally literate. I'm not super into his music. I'm not even that familiar with it, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I do think he has a lot of talent.
Okay.
I do think he objectively is, when people say he's our generation's Justin Timberlake, I actually think he has more talent than Justin Timberlake.
I think he might be.
I just, for whatever reason, his music is not my thing. But tell me how you became a believer.
I hate the word believer still, but I like saying it. God. Okay, so I wasn't in at that point. I couldn't stand the swoopy hair, if you remember the bangs, which were like a full-on curtain from left to right.
My brother had
like
that
all the way
haircut.
around.
Everyone did.
What was that? Like the swoosh of the OOs?
So you couldn't see?
Yeah, and then like they do that like, like the swoop into the side. Just did that a lot.
We called it my brother's Middle Ages haircut. We're like, you're from the Middle Ages.
Kind
like,
of is that.
Because I think haircuts were really, I think they like singed your hair off back in that era, so you didn't get them too often. So that's what we would call
an
it.
Elevated mushroom cut.
A little bit. So I just associated with like that's what teenage boys at the time looked like. So I thought he was like, okay, you get the demo. That's why I didn't understand why they didn't like him, because he was definitely their peer.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, like around this time, he's 12, 13, 14. He's a kid, and he is singing a song called Baby, essentially about like flirting with a woman / girl and like wooing her, I suppose. But we're gonna get into this because he wasn't even totally conscious of all of that. Obviously, he was too young. But I couldn't connect with him at that point. I was a bit older than him, but also it was too cringe, and I was not sold on any of it. It was as he was getting older, and definitely still, I have been informed by many friends, I still fell in love with him at a problematic time. But really, when is Justin Bieber not problematic at some point? So we're going to dig in. Okay. So as usual, we got to start from the very beginning.
Yep.
He is such a small town Canadian boy. Justin was born in London, Ontario in 1994, but raised in Stratford, which I feel like every Canadian should know by now, by his mother, Patty. His father was largely absent at the time, but they've gotten closer now. He even works with Justin. He's on his team a little bit. He'll come on the tour bus. He'll be along for touring, but I don't know that they still had the best relationship when they were younger. He was younger. He loved music. He taught himself to play a bunch of different instruments. He performed in local competitions. And then his family started uploading videos of him covering different songs and classics to YouTube. But the idea was that it was so his like aunts and uncles and cousins could see him, and then they wouldn't have to like get him on the phone every time. And it made it easier. And YouTube was suddenly a thing that made it super easy. But then what's amazing is everybody started to discover it. He became a thing in Canada on YouTube and then globally. So he kind of blew up. And it's interesting because he's one of the first ones, really. Like now we talk about SoundCloud rappers and like MySpace discoveries. And Justin Bieber was like one of the first, truly, which I think is really cool. He remains very true to his hometown. So he still supports Stratford. He supports a lot of arts programs there. He's donated a Grammy and a lot of his own stuff to the Stratford Arts Museum, which I think is cool. He, of course, has endless Tim Hortons collabs. You can still buy like Tim Hortons Justin Bieber collabs on eBay for like an alarming amount of money. Do you remember the toques? The special Tim Hortons boxes?
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny, like, I like it when a Canadian boy does that. Shawn Mendes did that too. He did like a collaboration with Tim Hortons.
Ryan Reynolds. Currently terrifying everybody with his large image.
I don't like Ryan Reynolds. No, okay. It didn't warm my heart when he did it. And he's an American now. Justin Bieber might be as well. I don't know. Does he have American citizenship?
I can answer that question. So for a very long time, he was saying he would never convert to American. He would never get American citizenship. But more recently, now that he's married, he's got a child. It's not official, but he's been talking about getting it done. He lives in LA more than here. But he does have property in Canada, just outside Toronto.
I mean, as he should. I mean, stimulate our economy, Justin.
Oh, God, sir. Well, it feels more local to me when I know he's living there. Anyway, okay, so naturally the YouTube videos caught on. Not only were people becoming fans of Justin, but you know whose attention he caught? Now infamous music manager Scooter Braun, who we know has had a lot of very messy entanglements with other stars, including, namely, of course, Taylor Swift.
Yep.
But this was early Scooter Braun. So this was when he was also just getting into the industry. And so maybe he had a really good ear and eye that he's the one who really discovered Justin. It wasn't exactly Usher, but Scooter then brought Justin to Atlanta to introduce him to different producers. That's when Usher saw him and they made a connection. And so Usher really propelled him into the star that he is, and very intentionally was like, I want this kid to be singing R&B music and talking about things that I don't think Justin really understood.
Nope.
There was a really funny bit. He said this in an interview years ago, but he was talking about how he would be singing songs where he would be talking about shorties. And he was like, I don't even know what a shorty is. And I'm singing a song about it. I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
So yeah, I think we can assume when he put out Baby, he didn't even really understand anything. He just went along with the lyrics. But anyway, his inspirations were very obvious. And I think they were obvious then. They're obvious now. It was Michael Jackson, of course. Justin Timberlake, as you mentioned. Chris Brown, minus obviously the controversy. But we can say, I mean, hell of a dancer and singer at a time. and then obviously Usher. So you can see the trajectory. It adds up. It makes sense. But obviously, I do want to make one very careful note. As we've said, Justin was not sexy at the time. Those artists had that sexy energy, correct? But I feel I have to say this because it was kind of what they were selling with his image, especially the more that he grew up. And at that time, yeah, it didn't sync up. He, again, was known for his swoopy hair, of course. And if you don't know what we're talking about, please Google it because it was something to remember. Another song alongside Baby was One Less Lonely Girl, which I can also hear in my head with his sweet little childish voice. So he did draw crowds on crowds on crowds of teenage girls. Like, think mall appearances, think Beatles. He was the Beatles wrapped in one little boy. It was intense. And because he came from YouTube, I think he just felt super accessible, right? Like, it felt like someone you knew and had maybe known for a while. It was easier to build that parasocial connection. We've talked a lot about this with other artists.
Yeah,
right?
especially, YouTube, I think, was so new in that era where he became famous.
Yeah.
And I do think if you become famous on a social media platform, it does intensify the parasocial relationship for sure. His whole image to me at the time, the way I thought of him when he first broke big was he was like if Jonathan Taylor Thomas could sing.
Wow.
Right? Imagine how much more famous he would have been because everyone was already obsessed. But if you add in that level of musical talent, I'd go see him perform at a mall for sure. So I'm not surprised by the reaction. He did come off as very wholesome. So I also can see why parents were like, sure, I'll take you to see him at a mall.
So
this
true.
is harmless.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because again, not sexy.
No.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas, I love that comparison because I loved him. And he also had that local energy, right? Like suburban kid.
You could meet Jonathan Taylor Thomas, even though you couldn't, but you thought you could.
Correct. Oh, God, that's so funny. Yeah, you're spot on. And like now we have stars too. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're everywhere. So you still have that parasocial connection, probably at a more intense degree. And obviously people do have that with Justin now. But like to think that it started at that point, it was still a small game, but he was very young. He grew into it. But I don't know. It was a rough terrain. We're going to get into it. But I do just want to say he was that first big internet star of our time. And that's how Bieber Fever started, because you could talk about him online, you could watch him online, defend him, attack him, whatever you wanted to do online. It was everything.
I know, yeah. And moms loved him too. Like,
yeah, they did.
I don't know, for some reason, to me, the Jonas Brothers, they always seemed more sexual because of those purity rings. It's like, well, they've thought about sex. They're promising not to have sex means they kind of want to. So that's, for me, they were kind of the bad boys of the music scene at the time. I'm like, oh, those sex-obsessed Jonas Brothers, that's why you had to give them the purity ring. Justin, you're like, he wouldn't think about sex, right? You're like, it's fine. As a mom, you're like, my kid can lust after him. It's fine.
His hair was like birth control enough. But it is funny to think like with the Jonas Brothers, like they're too sexy. Put a ring on it. Like
put a ring on it. Exactly.
Put it away. Oh my God. With like, you think about it, like for us, it was like we had Justin and Britney, right? And they were not putting a lid on it. They wanted to talk. I don't think the artists themselves necessarily wanted to talk about sex, but that's what would happen in the press. Like
yes.
It was, and there wasn't enough of a system yet where it would be like, actually, we won't answer that question about whether I've lost my virginity to my boyfriend at like 17, which happened to Britney.
Yeah. I mean, she kept talking when she became famous about being a virgin, but she became a virgin when she was like 15, 16. So I'm like, yeah, that's statistically very common. And so it is, you're right, really invasive when people are like, are you still a virgin? And it's like, well, losing your virginity at 17 is pretty much, I think, statistically average, actually.
Probably. It was a weird time. But that's a good point to bring up because they're under a microscope. Yeah. There's so much of that comes to Justin. But again, we'll get into it. So I do want to say by 2010, so let's establish where we're at. He was everywhere. So this is when he dropped the album My World. And that's the one that had Baby and Somebody to Love. So during this era, I also just want to say, and I did not know this was a term, but I discovered as I was researching the script, he had a boy soprano voice, which for some reason makes me giggle, that term, that he sang boy soprano. And critics were really worried. There was a bunch of them who labeled his puberty as the biggest threat to his career. Because, of course, at some point his voice would have to drop. He would get taller. He'd have to start aging into his body. And apparently that was a big threat. But see, I always felt like he needed that to grow and actually become the person they were trying to market him as, right? He felt like a baby up until then, to me.
But it is such a double-edged sword, right? Like if you study music, how a voice changes. There's so many young men who are great singers, do super well in the choir, and then they go through puberty and
That's
their
true.
career in music is done. So it is kind of a miracle that he had a great voice before, and after his voice changed, it was different, but it was still great. Like he's very lucky that worked out.
Personally, I think it's better now, but I guess it's also two different types of singing, right? He was also very precocious and kind of obnoxious, let's be real, at this time. He wasn't making music to chew on. Like, okay, it could be a hit, baby could be a hit, but as Sarah kindly described earlier, there's not any lyrics to it.
Nope.
There's no substance.
No words. No real words.
No real words. But I do want to stand up for the teen girls because they loved him. Like, they really established him. And we've talked about this so much on The Reheat. Teenage girls, we love them because they build so many of these stars into who they are. And I do think that's part of the reason he was also considered so cringe and embarrassing, right, in the beginning. I want to know from you, sir, do you feel like that was the case with Justin? Can we thank the teen girls? Why did people feel like... Because I do remember this time, there was a lot of anti-Justin energy, and I feel like it had to do with the girls a little bit.
People got angry, and it's interesting because anytime a Canadian group has this level of success, there is a weird backlash, right? And I'm not a Nickelback defender in terms of their music, but the level of backlash they received, there was a great documentary at TIFF a couple of years ago about Nickelback where they actually interviewed them, and they're kind of like, we were treated like we deserve to be canceled because we committed crimes,
it's
right?
True,
it's like, people just didn't like our music. It's like, we never said our music was the best, right? And just how viscerally angry people would get was kind of funny. It's like, just don't listen to Nickelback. They're not bad people. They're not doing anything objectionable. It's just not your taste. And I feel the same about Justin. People get so angry. And it happened at a similar time, right? This backlash. And I'm like, hey, he's a little boy. Be like, you don't have to listen to it.
No.
See, I actually felt like in some ways his music was so bad that it was campy, like the fact that it had no words.
Yeah, kind of. I think especially when it got to the Beauty and the Beat era. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
With Nicki, which was so bizarre.
So weird. I thought it was campy. And I don't know if he was intentionally doing camp or someone on his team was doing camp.
He was not intentionally doing camp.
It, to me, whether it was accidental or on purpose, was camp. And then I kind of developed a fondness for him.
Same. I do think that's like a very millennial period of that era, right? Like, I don't think that could have happened before. No. You're so right. God, now I'm remembering Nicki kind of would flirt with him too. And it was strange.
A lot of weird stuff went down. Yeah. A lot of weird stuff.
Okay, side note, we should do a Nicki episode.
Well, even just like, remember when he people thought he was dating Kim Kardashian?
Yeah.
And I don't for a second
and Kourtney, all of the sisters really at some point.
Yeah, I don't think for a second Kim Kardashian was dating like a child. Like, I don't think that she's like female Woody Allen. I've never felt this about her. But he seemed into it. I think he would have.
He was. He was a boy.
I know. And she was, I mean, she
gorgeous.
Still is hot, but she's really hot.
I get it. Okay. 2011, let's fast forward a tiny bit. He dropped Never Say Never. Those words even live in my mind, also rent-free. This was the concert doc that basically canonized him as an inspirational underdog, which also makes me laugh now because I don't know that he was ever an underdog really, but that's what they were trying to do with this doc. I think it was more to go fight the backlash that he'd been getting for so long. It touched on so many things: faith, family, fandom. The way they kind of painted it was like the entire music industry was resting its shoulders on this little Canadian boy who also always wore purple at the time, lest we forget that was his color. It was so corny. It was also parodied relentlessly, if you remember. I think Andy Samberg had a field day and ate off that for a very long time.
Yeah.
It also invited fans at a deeper level. Like, I think it helped them feel like, okay, we helped build him to this point. And so this also added to, I think, this newer level of fandom culture we have now, where they're given even more access and credit than they've ever been given. Obviously, a big part of that is the social media angle, but I think now we have this level of stars, a lot of them in the pop music genre, who really, like the Ariana Grandes, the Taylor Swifts, who really are constantly hitting on, we are doing this for you, you put us here.
Yeah, exactly. When I don't think that's always true, obviously, but I just think it's funny. They're always like, I'm doing this for my fans.
Yeah.
Like, are you not doing it because you want to make $100 million? Because
well, that's Taylor.
That's what I thought. Taylor. Yes, exactly.
Get him to buy like 100 different versions of one album.
Exactly.
Because I love you.
Exactly. Because I love you. I'm doing this for you because I love you. I need a home in the Hamptons because I love you.
Correct. Anyway. Okay, now around the time he turned 18, because we're fast forwarding here, he entered his Believe era. God, all of these albums also had the worst cringy names, I swear. Now, this is when the rebrand began. So this is when I suddenly started to feel like a quiver in my body. And I was like, Justin Bieber? I'm embarrassed to say. It was when he dropped the song Boyfriend, which is basically like a whisper song. Do you remember?
It's a good song.
It was a good song. It was very Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
It had the iconic line, I can be your Buzz Lightyear. Do you remember that?
Okay.
That did something for me.
That lives rent-free in my mind. Especially now that I'm a parent, anytime I have to watch Toy Story, I'm like, I just think about
That's
that
disgusting.
song all the time.
There you go. Well, there you go. It was like, I feel like his version of Britney's Rolling Stone cover with the Teletubbies, where he's kind of like, okay, I'm sexy now, I think. Like, he got taller significantly. His voice definitely deepened. It had changed. And I do like that he transitioned us, by the way, with that voice change with a whisper song. Like, he didn't hurt himself too much. The vocal cords were getting in there, you know? And he did, I guess, the way the media at least kind of positioned it was that he's becoming a man, which also just feels funny to me even now, because he was definitely still a child. I guess he was on the cusp of manhood. We can say that.
On the cusp. He was cusping on manhood.
He was cusping on manhood. It was like that period, though, with so many child stars, and I feel like especially musicians, when they're wanting to be sexy, right? And kind of be desired in a different way, or at least that's what they do with their image. But
yeah. I mean, they all
awkward.
go through that phase. It was also very weird when Miley Cyrus did it, because she just went so headfirst into it. But you know what? Sometimes you rip the Band-Aid off. He didn't. As you said, he transitioned smoothly and slowly, and it seemed very purposeful. So whoever did his branding actually was brilliant at that strategy.
Very, very gradual and gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because he still felt like a child, but he was also definitely being sexualized. Like, I remember the music videos too. Like, it was like the women all looked grown, but he still looked like a baby.
But isn't that like a high school dance? Like,
yeah, true.
That is because girls on average, I think, go through puberty about 2 years earlier. A friend of mine teaches high school, and he was telling me, it's so funny. He's like, the girls go through puberty and they become interested in boys sooner, and the boys like don't get it. They don't even understand the girls are interested in them. And then by the time the boys go through puberty, the girls are basically Miss Havisham. They've been like, I no longer want men. They've been burned by too many because they've been ignored by the boys for a couple of years, and they're like, I'm no longer interested in these men. So
this feels cyclical, because now in my 30s, I feel like I'm right back there.
Yeah.
And they're all behind.
Exactly. So I think like that is real life. That's what a high school dance looks like,
That's
right? Where it's all these prepubescent boys and all of these like young women who are tall, who look fully grown, who like if they put on a face of makeup can get mistaken for a 30-year-old at a bar. Like, you know, that's how it is. And they are not 30. Do not mistake them just because they look older.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's just life.
No, you're right. That's true. A lot of this is just life. But I guess with him being on this under a spotlight, it feels like 10 times more serious. But you're right. Okay, so Believe was also a transitional album. It was more dance pop. It was a little more adult. Then Journals came in 2013. You could even tell by the name of that album. We're getting serious. It was moodier. It was a little more R&B leaning. It felt like it was Justin trying to say, I actually do like music. I actually do have taste. I have perspective. I was shocked because I feel like very distinctly you could tell he's having a direct involvement in his music now. He's writing the lyrics, maybe not all the time, but it was definitely clear he was more involved. I felt like I was hearing his actual perspective. It wasn't this entire team making and manufacturing his image for him, you know? But here's the thing. So around this time, his personal life starts to get messy, real messy. So it all starts to conflict a little, because this was the era of the chaotic Bieber headlines, which doesn't feel that long ago, but like it's been a little more than 10 years, guys. Wild. Okay, I'm going to take you through some of them really quickly because they're wild and there's a lot of them. So he had a really messy SNL hosting stint, which I remember Bill Hader shitting on later, and a lot of the cast members saying Justin was not great to work with. I think Justin was just really unprofessional behind the scenes. You could kind of tell, even if you watch the skits now. He was hospitalized briefly for exhaustion, quote unquote. He vomited on stage during a show. He peed in a restaurant mop bucket.
Because they didn't have a toilet, or just
don't ask questions, Sarah. There's no answers for them.
Okay.
Now, here's my favorite one. He had a pet monkey, but it doesn't stop there. The monkey was seized in Germany while he was on tour there because he didn't have the proper paperwork for monkey ownership.
Okay, rookie mistake. Wait, so he had a pet monkey, like Chuck Bass in the Gossip Girl books.
See, I thought of Friends, Ross's pet monkey, but yeah.
That's like absurd.
Yeah. Although Justin years later was like, well, if you have all that money, why wouldn't you get a pet monkey? And I'm like, I don't know. I have a million reasons.
I mean, that is a rich person thing to do.
Yeah.
So I get it. Ross was never rich enough to have a monkey.
No, he wasn't.
That did not fit that character. I can't get over this monkey.
I
What
know.
happened to the monkey? Is the monkey okay?
The monkey's okay. Justin did not have him after that. And I'm sorry to say, I don't know that Justin cared enough about what happened to this monkey. So that was a big story that he abandoned the monkey.
He abandoned a monkey? Okay.
The
I don't like
monkey's
this
okay.
person
The
anymore.
monkey's
I,
okay.
it's done.
He
It's
was
done.
18.
I don't like him.
He was a child. Okay. He has said he regretted a lot of this shit. So he was also a big Hillsong church fan, if we remember that era. And there's a great documentary on the Hillsong scammer and the drama behind it on Disney Plus that I encourage you to watch. But he was friends with the scammer behind that. So that was also very sketchy. And then another incredibly infamous moment. He went to the Anne Frank house and he left a comment in the guest book where he wrote that Anne Frank was a, quote, great girl and hopefully would have been a believer.
Okay, here's the thing. Obviously, I think that is not respectful enough at all. But also, it's one of those things where it's like this person was not allowed really to finish school. And does he have more substantive thoughts than that, right? That's probably honestly the nicest thought that came to his head, right? It's not like, did he do that unit in grade 9 where you study World War II?
I don't know that
think
he even
so.
went to grade 9, right?
No, I don't think he knows why
No.
she lived in the attic.
I don't know if he even knew she did. Like, I don't know that he was picking up what was happening as he was going through this space. It was more of a media moment, let's be real, which I hate to say. Like, who does that at the Anne Frank house?
Well, it's because that was like peak The Fault in Our Stars era,
Yes,
right?
correct.
That's why. I mean, some enterprising PR person thought, let's do it. And I guess it didn't occur to them that he wouldn't know what the Holocaust was. So they assumed he would say something tasteful, but
allegedly, I have to assume he did, but there's a good chance he didn't. And may I reveal something? I may have to cut this, but this did make me giggle a bit, where I was like, and more so at him, like he's so dim, or he was so dim, that he just thought, this will be funny. Like, who walks into the Anne Frank house is like, moment for comedy.
Do you think he was trying to be funny, or do you think he's really, really hoped that she would have been a believer?
I think he legitimately didn't know what to say and didn't know where he was and what he'd been taught by his team. And I'm not blaming the team. I mean, he was old enough to know better. But your way to charm through any kind of media moment is to make a joke and be that guy. And it landed very flat. It was a disaster.
That's fair. That's fair.
It was a disastrous press time for him. And then on top of that, he was getting into fights with paparazzi. He was getting into fights with his neighbors. But this I also find kind of cute because it does feel very realistic for a child. I gotta stop saying he was 18, but he was.
That's a kid. Your brain's not fully developed until you're 25.
Yeah.
We created the definition of adulthood before we understood neuroscience. So I actually feel like if we had to do it all over again, you shouldn't be an adult until you're 25.
Fair.
I really do believe this. And I fully intend, if I need to completely support my child until she's 25 and her brain's developed, I think that's fine.
Thank you.
I also I don't even know why we let 18-year-olds take full control of their lives. I was not ready at 18, nor should I have been. My brain was 7 years away from development. That's such a large percentage of your life that you still have to grow up. And then we're all like, you can vote. You can die in a war. All these things you can do now because you're an adult. I'm like, no, I'm not.
You're right. And I think we have to remember, too, he's probably even more stunted because he didn't have a normal school experience, socialization experience, none of it. He was egging houses. So,
he's in grade 10.
Yeah, I know. I had the same reaction. But then in 2014, this was the big one for him. He was arrested for the first time on suspicion of DUI and drag racing. Now, what did make me giggle again was that around this time, there was a petition floating around in the U.S. to have him deported back to Canada.
Yeah. I mean,
fair.
If you're getting a DUI, you're breaking the law. Okay. I mean, I guess you should be our problem. Fair enough.
Although I feel like now they'd be happy to claim him. It's like, no, he's ours.
They send so many ruckus Americans here that I just have to say they deserved a taste of their own medicine.
I agree. So now this is the interesting part because I always like to, and we talk about this on the show a lot again, but seeing how particular magazines especially will present these stars throughout time. So we talked about the infamous Britney cover with the Teletubby. So at this time, when he's going through all this shit, Rolling Stone did put him on the cover. The headline was Bad Boy, and he was topless. He had a new haircut, so the swoop was gone, no bangs at all. His hand is kind of like pawing his crotch. He's covered in tattoos, so that was new. And I do want to say 2 years before this cover came out, they had put him on another cover that said Justin Bieber, hot, ready, legal. He was in a white tank top too. And you know what this reminded me of was when infamously back in the day, the Olsen twins were about to turn 18 and there was an actual clock on it that you could go to that was like a tripod site or something, and it was counting down to when they would be legal, which is so interesting to me because we've seen so much of that for women and young female stars. We rarely actually get that so literally for male stars, I feel like.
It's funny. He has been objectified, you're right, in this way that would typically be considered feminine. Yeah. And so that is fascinating.
Isn't
and
it?
I don't know what about him inspired that level of objectification, but it's, you know what? You know who I bet has lots of those clocks in his home? I bet you Leonardo DiCaprio has one for every single Victoria's Secret model who's like 17, right?
That's
I bet
kind of
you
an
he does.
hilarious visual. It just has clocks.
Also, that was a joke. That was a joke. I didn't mean that for legal reasons. That's just an alleged theory. He doesn't actually have this. I'm sure he doesn't.
We don't know.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, again, back to Justin, but we could say this for Leo too, but he was obnoxious as fuck, okay? He was privileged. He was running around, actually shot topless a lot, and without anyone to say no, and a whole lot of money, more and more all the time. So I was thinking, remind me a lot of the Lindsay Lohans and the Charlie Sheens who we talked about recently. Very similar trajectory in terms of having nobody who's really looking out for them, it seems like, and maybe just being yes men and making buckets of cash.
Yeah. Well, like Lindsay, he had the momager, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if your mom's paycheck is dependent on yours, even if you really do love your child, that's a really uncomfortable conflict of interest.
Yeah. Even if you do love them. Yeah. Yeah. He's had a lot of conflict with his mom. We're not going to get too much into this episode, but there's definitely been tension there over the years. She's even posted cryptic Instagram posts about it, which is also strange. Like, I think if you're going to choose to be your child's manager, which first of all, you should never do.
No.
But if you're going to do that, there needs to be some set boundaries. Like, I would not be talking shit about my kid on social media. Do you want to be the star? You want your kid to be the star? Establish that.
Exactly. If for tax purposes you need to be on the payroll,
purposes.
I get it. But then be like, I'm my kid's chef, right? Take the things you do and their chauffeur and like just take the things you already do for them.
Yeah.
Don't add in manager. Hire someone to do that.
Agreed.
And then just be like, I get paid $250,000 a year to be their personal assistant.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Well said. Yeah. Okay. Well, so to me, and I feel like in retrospect, a lot of us can say this, it did seem like he was kind of breaking down a little bit in slow motion, right? Like it was a bit of a call for help, just like the Lindsays, just like the Charlies. Now, in a 2019 Vogue story, Justin did say, quote, I was real at first, and then I was manufactured. They took more and more control. I started feeling myself too much. Like people love me. I'm the shit. That's honestly what I thought. I got really arrogant and cocky. I was wearing sunglasses inside. I like this one too, because he did this profile with Hailey, and then Hailey jumps in and is like, he was wearing them at night inside.
I love the way it's like you had a DUI and it's like, but my rock bottom was I wore sunglasses inside.
He's not wrong.
At night.
He's not wrong. He also said in this profile, quote, drugs put a screen between me and what I was doing. It got pretty dark. I think there were times when my security was coming in late at night to check my pulse and see if I was still breathing. Now, this is a big revelation. So this was in 2019 when he shared this, but we're talking about things that happened like 2013, 2014. So he was struggling with addiction at the time. We know this now, but it was not so obvious at the time. The way that his team would even handle it was like, yeah, he's just a kid growing up in front of the spotlight. He's doing his best, shrug. But he was actually really struggling. And I also want to say this is when he was dating Nickelodeon star at the time, Selena Gomez. So every move he made was also just magnified because of that, right? And if he was sad, the fans were like, it's because of Selena. If he was happy, it was because of her acting out, because of her. Made a moody song, it's about Selena. Every lyric, every Instagram post, every unfollow, because I think they both played the unfollow-follow game came a lot. Every pap shot, all of it was evidence of what might be happening in their relationship. Looking back, I actually do find it wild how scrutinized everything they did was. But like, I also, listen, man, I love a love triangle. I've gotten sucked into all of those. Our era, we've talked about it, was I was obsessed with Britney and Justin and figuring out what their relationship was. And by the way, guys, we worked hard because we didn't have social media to dissect.
No,
okay?
we did
We
not.
had to go by everything else. It was very hard.
I know. We were real detectives.
We really were. Okay, but Sarah, I want to know from you, because now we have this revelation that he was struggling with addiction at the time. He was also behaving badly, though. But knowing what we know now, can we excuse it? Do we have more empathy for him? Because again, at the time, oh my God, he was raked over the coals.
I think even at the time I had empathy for him because he was pulled out of school at a very young age. He was turned into a commodity. I know he says, I was real at first and then I was manufactured.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was real at first. I think he was kind of like Pinocchio becomes a pop star. He wasn't a real boy. I don't think they allowed him to be real. His mom was supposed to be looking out for him, but she was monetizing the relationship. He didn't really have a dad in his life at the time. Everyone was making fun of him, right? Like he was getting cyberbullied pretty severely, which I do think would drive me to drink and do drugs for sure.
Yeah, I shouldn't laugh.
And I know that they're bad, but I don't know, he missed that day in health class where they tell you drugs are bad. Like that fundamental information you learn in middle school and high school, who would have really sat him down and been like, this is what drugs do to your body. I know we take that for granted, but we were trained from a young age. Remember when you went to school and they explained. Yeah, they explained.
But I feel like even because he's living such a different life, right? Like the access to drugs, to alcohol, to all of that is at a whole other level, right? And I mean, we know from instances, and I'm not saying it was the same, we don't know, but even in cases like Demi Lovato, who talked about in her documentary, sometimes people on her team would supply her with drugs and substances so she could just get up and do another show, which is diabolical. But that was also that era of star.
It's so common. And it's not even that different from what happened to Lena Dunham, who got addicted to painkillers because she had to go back to set for girls. Same thing happened to Matthew Perry. He had to go back to set. They gave him painkillers. It got out of control. So what's really sad is when you become famous as an actual child, this is happening too. And I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for Justin Bieber. Yes, he made mistakes, but a lot of them I really do believe come from a place of extreme ignorance that is not really his fault.
I agree. This also reminds me, we talked about this on a Charlie Sheen episode, but do you remember the moment when he talks in his Netflix documentary? Again, I highly recommend, but he had to shoot a scene and he was so hungover and unwell that he then just was like hair of the dog, like I'm just going to do drugs, be high, show up just so I can get through it, but then went a little too far, was too high to get through the scene, so put an ice cube up his ass to wake him up and get him going. And I cannot get that. Like that is the measures at which these stars are coping. Like, it's not normal or doable to be able to shoot something for like 16 hours a day, right? None of this is normal.
No,
like how do you cope? Okay, this feels like a good time to take a quick little break. We will be right back. Go listen to the Charlie episode if you want, then come on back.
Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is The Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is The Big Five? That's what The Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. Okay, so after the bad boy years, Justin pulled off one of the most successful pop rehabilitations of the decade, or maybe ever, I think. In 2015, he released the uber successful single, Where Are You Now? Which, like, I can hear reverberating through my head immediately. It was with Skrillex and Diplo, which is like a good team to get involved in at that time if you really want to kind of jump forward, mature, be in a different genre if you want to. And suddenly people who'd been making fun of him for years were like, hey, wait, I kind of like this. It was cool. It was different. It was a new electronic sound, kind of totally reinvigorated his sonic persona, which I think was so needed. Then he dropped his album Purpose. Again, terrible, corny-ass title, but anyway. That era was massive, and God, I loved that album. That had the songs What Do You Mean, Sorry, Love Yourself. They were personal, very sleek production. They were kind of sad, moody, catchy. Even my mom loved them. Like, my mom fell in love with Justin Bieber at this time. And it just felt like he was even more involved in his own work, which was great. He also got his first 2 Grammy nominations around this. He also got his first 2 Grammy wins around this time, which was pretty big.
Good for him.
Now, this was also a style and image reset. So he bleached his hair, which I enjoyed. And I've been told that that's terrible of me, but I thought
it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, he started wearing grungy streetwear. He dropped the boyish dance moves, God bless. He kind of had like a new confidence. He was also less messy. He did an apology media tour. He reversed a lot of the perspectives he'd shared before. He admitted regretting some of his bad boy behavior. In that same interview with Vogue in 2019, he said that he would laugh at his past self now, which I think is good to know. Thank God.
He was pretty funny.
He was, yeah. And although when he was younger, he laughed off a lot of political questions. Like, if you go back, some of the shit he said politically and when he was like 13, 14, 15, which, like, why are you even asking about it at that time? But it was bad. He was anti-abortion, that sort of thing. But now recently, in the last few years, he's been like, that was bullshit. Actually, women should have the right to make all of their own choices.
Yeah.
He's also been pretty firmly anti-Trump, pro-LGBT. And I do want to know this because one thing I always like to do whenever we do an episode on someone particular is just seeing where they put their money. And I was really intrigued because I didn't know this about him because he doesn't talk about it. But he's put a lot of money into healthcare funding, especially post-COVID.
He's very philanthropic, and he's always been very philanthropic.
He has.
And that's something he hasn't gotten enough credit for even in his wayward youth. He actually was more philanthropic than most comparable celebrities.
It's really interesting. And it tells, I think, a lot about who that person is. He's also put a lot of money towards prison reform, which I think is really amazing, especially in the US. And he's a co-founder of a sustainable water company that I think is actually doing something as opposed to like the Matt Damon water bottle era. Like, I feel like this one might actually get us to a better place because it's involving creating actual tech. But anyway, so okay, Justin, we love this.
Good for him.
This. Now, suddenly, his audience is not just teen girls. Even though we love the teen girls, the critics fell in love with him. He was like a universal hit. We're fans of Justin Bieber all around. He became a music star, certified hitmaker. This is when Despacito was out, okay? I loved that era. I loved that summer. This was also when model and entrepreneur, because I love her too, Hailey Baldwin gets into the picture. She was Hailey Baldwin at the time.
Yeah.
These two got serious, but the timeline is tough for some people. Let's go over it real quick.
All right.
Here's the thing. She'd been in his orbit for years. People have discovered she was indeed a fan of his. She was found spotted in like the background of some concert photos.
But like, who wasn't a fan?
You know, and
okay?
I don't think that's bad necessarily.
No, it's like, okay, if I were, okay, let's just say if by some chance Stanley Tucci gets divorced and I get divorced too, and then I meet Stanley Tucci and we fall in love.
Yes.
And people are like, well, you were always a Stanley Tucci stan. You've seen The Devil Wears Prada and The Devil Wears Prada too. I'm like, yeah, everyone has.
And also, shouldn't you be for the man you're going to marry? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, part of what you respect, I guess, is his artistry as a musician. The idea that you wouldn't be a fan of Justin Bieber if you were a teenage girl at the right age.
Yes, good point. What are the odds you weren't?
Absurd.
True.
I mean, I'm trying to think of a comparable celebrity because, like, we grew up with teen girl stars, really. But, I mean, there were boy bands and everyone had a favorite boy band member. There wasn't a singular I guess there was Justin Bieber.
Well, I remember with NSYNC, my beloved NSYNC, Danielle Fishel, who, of course, played the wonderful Topanga in Boy Meets World. I'm going back. But, like, she had said she was such a big fan of NSYNC and Lance Bass. And then they did date. And I know that man is out now. And that is what it is. But they did date, okay? So, you know,
I believe their love, while probably not sexual, was real. Like, I believe they probably had a connection.
Should they appreciate that?
Right? I mean, you can have a romantic relationship with someone you don't feel sexual attraction for. There's a lot of, romance is not necessarily the same as sex.
Thank you very much, Sarah. There you go. On the record. Now, I will say, so in the span of in 2018, a lot happened. He has his final breakup with Selena, allegedly final. I have a feeling these two are going to fuck here and there, like throughout the years until their deaths. I swear it.
Well, they're Ben and J-Lo again, 2.0, right?
I do feel that. And God, that's true because Hailey is such a Jennifer Garner.
I know. they're Charles and Camilla. They're Ben and J-Lo. Every generation has couples like this where they need to be together because it just won't work for anyone else they're with. They're not good together, but they just mess everybody else up when they try to make it work with other people.
Well, isn't that the thing? Because from what I always felt, and I enjoyed them together. I didn't really have a lot invested in this because they felt too young for me in that way, but I do think they seemed quite toxic. Like, it didn't seem like they were good for each other,
absolutely. I think they're toxic together. Yeah. But I think that they will always, I think every relationship they ever have will be marked by some form of infidelity that they will engage in with each other. And that is why I think to spare the rest of us, they just need to be together. Some couples, it's like, you're toxic. I hate that for you. But do the rest of the world a favor and stay together.
Yeah, because it also does seem like the peak of their relationship was allegedly, but if I look at the timeline, when he was in the peak of his addiction too. And I think when that happens and you're together, that's just really hard. Like, everything is working against you. I do believe that they were deeply in love and probably always will be. But anyway, back to my girl Hailey, because I love her. So these two break up, and then literally in the span of months, I want to say maybe 5-6 months, he and Hailey get married.
I know.
And here's the thing. He and Hailey had been dating, but he was being on and off with both girls. Let's be real. There was probably overlap, allegedly. But then they got married.
Love triangle.
Yeah. Of course, the fans lost their shit in every humanly way possible. I loved it.
It's like a CW show in real life. You know how One Tree Hill had that one love triangle that was the show? It's like that, but in real life.
Oh my God. Yeah. Very One Tree Hill. Yeah. Anyway, so it was interesting too, because it did seem like he'd made a smart, quote unquote, decision here, right? Because they seemed much more mature together, very future driven. He was being very family conscious. He talked all the time about how he's always wanted to get married. He wants children. He wants to have a home. And Hailey was talking about that too. It was very different from what he and Selena were putting out there in terms of their brand together. Now, as various profiles have revealed too, that I find interesting, Hailey tends to be the stronger one emotionally and mentally in the relationship. He's very sensitive. She's not good at getting in touch with emotions. He's too good at getting in touch with his emotions. She's talked a lot about how she's never touched drugs because addiction runs through her family. Yeah. And you can even look that up because that's the Baldwin family she's talking about. And she's the one who was coming in helping him with his addiction issues and helped him get through it. So I think that's really interesting. But yeah, for years, fans have treated Hailey like trash.
Yes,
and I hate that. Guys, get it together, because if they're in love, we gotta support them. But yeah, I feel like they treat all three of them like they were characters in a TV show, right? I know that some of you weirdos still root for Selena and Justin to reunite. And listen, as Sarah and I have said, there will be moments. It will come. It will come.
It will come. You just have to wait. Yeah. It will happen. And I'm not rooting for it. I feel like, well, I kind of am, because I feel like that will protect other people from harm, right?
What about Hailey?
I think Hailey can thrive on her own. I think she can do better herself. Find a better relationship for what she's a mogul. She doesn't need Justin.
God, she's amazing. Truly incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I listen, and I love Justin. I'm a big fan, but I do think she could do better, respectfully. That being said, so almost a decade later, I am shocked to say they are still married. I didn't think they would make it this long. They also have a 2-year-old son named Jack Blues, which I think tells us again, listen, Justin's from us. I love music. He even named his child after the blues. And they do seem really supportive of each other's careers. I know some people feel differently, but honestly, I think they do. And he sings about Hailey a fair bit on his more recent albums. I think it's sweet. Sarah, we kind of touched on this already, but do you feel like these two are the real thing, at least for now, in some way?
I think that Hailey won't leave, because I think that she's very pragmatic, and he's the father of her child. Getting a divorce when you're trying to separate two estates is very difficult. I feel like this woman doesn't have time to get divorced, so she will make it work. This woman's busy, okay? She doesn't have time to fit a divorce into the schedule. So because she is ever practical, I think they're going to make it for a while.
Yeah.
I think eventually he will do something, because as you said, he follows his heart. He's emotional.
Yeah.
He will do something that will make it necessary, where she just can no longer turn a blind eye. But I do think he, if he and Selena hooked up, but it was out of the public eye, I think she'd stay married to him.
I actually do too. And who knows, maybe it did happen already.
Exactly. I think she'd stay married. I think she'd be tolerant of that for practical reasons. But I do think eventually he'll do something public enough that she,
knock on wood,
for the sake of her image, has to leave.
Because the other thing is they have a kid now too, which is a strong glue. So
exactly.
Let's see what happens. We wish him the best. We really do.
I do.
Yeah. Okay. So by 2020, just in yet another era. This is a man of eras. He's married. He's about to have a kid at this point. But he was talking more about his mental health. He was talking about his addiction, his faith, his physical health. He released the YouTube docuseries Justin Bieber: Seasons, which was designed to show the human behind the machine. Of course. Then came the album Changes. I hate these titles. Anyway, Changes seemed to have a lot to do with healing and being a family man. I enjoyed that album. It wasn't his strongest, but I do feel like it gave us a very honest sense of where he was wanting to go. Like, he wanted to graduate in so many ways personally, and I think he was saying, I want everyone to come with me. Like, let's move on from this really bad image. This was also the time when he was struggling with Lyme disease, which he was opening up about, and addiction again. And he was talking about how these were things he'd been battling throughout the years while he was growing through the fame. Then in 2021, he released the album Justice, which gave us the songs Peaches, Hold On. I mean, it was hit after hit. Then in 2022, so we're fast forwarding a little bit here, he announced he was dealing with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which caused him partial facial paralysis. When this happened and he announced it, there was already rumors that something was up because he was not making all of his public appearances. He just wasn't out and about like he usually was, or he used to be anyway. And then he canceled the rest of his world tour. So I remember this moment very vividly because I was very concerned. And I was like, oh no, he's not well. And he told us about this element of his physical health. It did feel like a big turning point, the world wondering if there was more to it, if that was even the truth. Is he going to come back? Is it a cry for help? I started to wonder, maybe this is him saying, I don't really want to perform anymore. I don't know if I actually really love it. He's not in the state that Britney is in any way, but it reminded me of her a lot, where we have a lot of discussions now where it's like, clearly she doesn't want to be performing anymore. She doesn't want to be in front of the public eye anymore. It doesn't make her happy. And I feel like maybe that's what he's feeling, because obviously he wasn't doing well. He'd also discussed living with depression and anxiety. He's often spoken about getting too famous, too young, and not getting to find out who he really was. He told GQ in 2021, and this is kind of a sweet, sad story, but after he signed his first recording contract, so he was again like 12, 13, 14, he took a trip back to Toronto. He was so tired, so sad and lonely that he and his friends hid his passport from his team so that they couldn't make him rush back to LA for a Today Show appearance and to perform. And he just wanted to play with his friends.
That's so sweet.
I know. He said he didn't feel normal anymore. So he told GQ, quote, I had all the success and it was still like, I'm still sad and I'm still in pain and I still have these unresolved issues. And I thought all the success was going to make everything good. And so for me, the drugs were like a numbing agent to just continue to get through. And I'm sorry for all the Britney comparisons, but like, is this not the whole point of Britney's song Lucky? Like, hello.
Oh my God, I love that song.
That's I know. But let's talk about this for a bit, because I feel like this is also, again, a narrative we see all the time. I got so upset about it in our Charlie Sheen episode because I was just like, it happens nonstop again and again and again. And there's no set system or boundaries or someone employed who can help and step in and say they need help. And again, like you mentioned, momagers don't make a difference, or dadagers, like
dadagers.
That's help. It's almost like you need some, like, you know, we have intimacy coordinators now for sexies. Can we have like some kind of coordinator who can help with the other personal elements of their lives and just say, this isn't working?
I mean, hopefully that's a good idea.
I don't know. Maybe like a therapist on everybody's team. Although even then, you know, if you're being paid by the team and paid by the artist, that's where
you have this perverse incentive, because you just want them to be able to keep paying you.
The better they do, the more you stay employed.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, like, because the Bachelor has an on-set psychologist, but I don't know how much that person's actually looking out for the well-being of the contestants. I mean, anyway, so I am not sure what the solution is. I feel like child stars just should not be a thing.
Yeah, I think
that's
so
the
too.
solution. No one should be famous before they're like 28.
Yeah, and again, like, he started making better music and really coming into himself when he was in his 20s. So it doesn't, what are we missing? I mean, I guess we wouldn't have had like the Michael Jacksons, although, you know, also minus his troubles. And like, there's so many stars we have now in classic music we have now that came from child stars. So it's tough. I don't know that we're ever going to have that kind of boundaries in place, those kinds of boundaries in place, but
yeah,
I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know. It's just, we know it doesn't work. Every generation has examples of people who have suffered because they were child stars. And yet we turn child stars, more so than other celebrities, into a joke. We abuse them. We did the same thing with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because we are all we don't want to face our guilt and how we are complicit. And so we just make fun of them and pretend that they're just a buffoon. It's like, no. They are the victim of this fame that we foisted on them. I don't know. It's
that too, right? Because we're a part of it as well.
Because
I keep saying, like, I'm a fan of his. LOL, he said this thing about Anne Frank. But it's like, that's terrible. Like, I'm playing into part of that whole machine as well. So even us doing this episode is a part of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there is merit in going back and looking at how we look at child stars who are now adults who are okay. Like, I think you can... Justin Bieber has, knock on wood, I think survived it, right? He's gone through... Same thing with Lindsay Lohan, who actually done incredibly well.
Amazing comeback.
There are some stories that are just purely sad and purely tragic. And Lena Dunham mentions those people in Famesick.
Yeah, great reference. Listen to that episode from last week. Okay, fast forwarding again. From 2023 onward, Justin has really become more elusive, which seems to be his answer to all of this. He's super soft-spoken now, which again, like if you think back to the young Justin Bieber who stepped into this world, so different. That was a yapper, constantly putting his foot in his mouth. Now he doesn't. You're lucky if you get an interview with him. He doesn't do much press anymore. In January 2023, he also sold his music rights and catalog shares, which was wild, and also had people wondering if he's in his right mind. I don't think it was necessarily a bad call, but he did. The deal was reported to be worth more than $200 million, which is substantial. I also think it's interesting to note because usually when an artist sells all of that, it's because they're a legacy artist. Like they've been in the game for a really, really long time. They're established. They've become icons. He was in his 20s. So that's really impressive. Like that tells us how far his music has elevated into this really beautiful space where it's certified. Like it's music history now.
Yeah, it is.
Now, by this time, Justin does have his son, Jack Blues. And in the past year, he's released 2 albums. So we had Swag and Swag 2, which felt like a sweet little nod to his obsession with the word swaggy, which I'm also embarrassed to say made me giggle at the time. Now, these 2 albums, massive commercial and critical hits, which is great. Both, again, like I think in that place where he really excels, that's really moody and kind of heartbreaking, but also clearly so him. You can tell that he's written all of that music. It's nice. I feel like we can see his growth. So he's a man now, FYI.
Oh,
he's a man.
Yeah, he's a man. He's an adult.
Now, when he appeared at Coachella just last month, his performance didn't involve a whole lot. There was no visuals. There were no strings. Like if you think about like a Sabrina Carpenter who came out there with so much production, she worked hard. There was he got a lot of shit for it because the idea was, listen, women artists have to work so much harder to put a production together. Sabrina couldn't come out there and just have nothing.
Well, that's true.
And
but he didn't invent patriarchy. I'll just say this for him. He didn't create it.
Yeah.
The other thing is I actually really like a minimalist performance.
Me too.
And so
liked
I
it.
understand it's not fair that women can't get away with that aesthetic.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that for the sake of feminism, men have to have these gaudy performances too. I think we just need to create a society where women feel like I can just show up and do my music and that's enough. So again, I don't think this is his fault. This double standard is not his fault. And I'm okay with minimalism. I'm okay with, I don't want to see I get dizzy when I watch those shows where there's so much going on and there are like fireworks and strobe lights. I can't watch it.
Fair. It is very much like Adam Sandler like showing up on red carpets in baggy shorts and Hawaiian shirts, and then Jennifer Aniston in like a whole gown.
A gown, that's true.
But I will say, like with Justin, and I'm not trying to be, maybe we are coming off too generous here, but I feel like he did the best he could, genuinely. Like it seemed amazing he even stepped out because he doesn't do this anymore, right? I think that was, for me, was the shock that he even made it on stage. But that aside, that performance is still trending, which is wild. And it went viral for quite some time. He was the biggest name, again, considering everybody who performed at Coachella, everything that's going on, just generally speaking.
Yeah, in the world,
He's still the big name. And it reminded me of when he was going through his problems. Like he was that guy. And now he's doing it, but for good reasons, which is really nice. Clearly, again, he's at max fame. You cannot get bigger than this. Now, I want to hit you with some numbers just to establish how well he did and how on top he is. So after he performed performed during that first weekend at Coachella, his music catalog saw a 172% increase in streams, with 17 songs charting on the Billboard Global 200 chart. That same week, he simultaneously charted 7 albums on the Billboard 200 for the first time in his career. He's also the most followed male musician on Twitter with over 90 million followers. That's important to note because, as we've said, he is an internet star. That's how he was born. Now, with over 77 million subscribers, he's also still the most subscribed solo artist on YouTube, and he's held that record for 6 years. That's almost 2 decades after he was discovered on the same platform. Isn't that wild?
I mean, it's quite the dynasty.
Yeah. So still, though, it's hard not to feel like at some point the bottom is going to fall out. I want to talk about these worries because I feel like I've discussed in many of my group chats. You and I have talked about it. It's hard not to feel like something bad is going to happen at some point. Knock on wood. And there's an elephant in the room we haven't really talked about. I think it's hard to touch on, but we got to touch on it. After the allegations and legal proceedings around Diddy became a major public story, old videos of a very young Justin with Diddy resurfaced and, of course, got endlessly reinterpreted online, because we also know that Usher was one of Diddy's young proteges. I hate even using that word now. But that led to a lot of intense speculation about whether Justin had been exploited when he was younger. His rep said that he wasn't one of Diddy's victims and emphasized that the focus should be on those who were actually harmed, which is true. However, around this time, Justin was also posting very cryptic things on his social media that had people wondering if he was alluding to something having happened then. And maybe we can't say something did happen with Diddy or with Usher, but it's hard to imagine he didn't get exploited. He was exploited, obviously, to some degree, because he was so young when he got into the industry. It's hard to imagine nothing else happened. I do want to be careful here because the internet does have a tendency to turn trauma into a whole game, right? Especially when we're talking about a child star or former child star. People say they're worried. I'm saying we're worried, but then they make TikToks and think about the timeline, and there's explainers, and you're breaking down like what he's trying to say in a video or like what his body language is saying. And with Justin, there is a broader truth that I do feel like we can be certain of. He's a child star. He grew up in a really complicated industry. There's no way he wasn't impacted. We know that now. He was surrounded by really popular, really powerful people. He was filmed constantly. We know he was mocked endlessly. He was sexualized. He was overworked. He was doing too much, having to do too much. There was obviously damage. But in the words of the great Carrie Bradshaw, I still can't help but wonder, is something about to happen? What kind of trajectory are we on right now? Is it just that things feel too good that maybe that's hard for us to wrap our head around? Sarah, what do you think?
I don't know. I think you're right. Like, it just, he's been through so much and I'm rooting for him, but it does feel like it's so hard when you've had such a tumultuous life to then grow up and have a completely smooth adulthood. But having said that, I mean, there are people who have done that who weren't celebrities.
Yeah.
Everyone's parents have a friend who, like, in their 20s, they were no good, right?
Yeah.
I had friends in my 20s who were no good. Like,
Yeah.
I had friends who would, like, be about to walk into an exam smoking a joint, right? And now, one of the guys who did that is a lawyer with a wife, right? So miracles do happen. So, I just feel like when you add in the wrinkle of the fact that he is a celebrity, and so there's more scrutiny, and also the fact that his education was interrupted, and there are probably very basic things he doesn't know because of that. Like, does he know the Earth isn't flat?
Oh,
like just scientific
I feel
facts.
like he knows.
Are you sure?
Come on, he's grown, Sarah. Think about
where would he have learned that?
Think about where.
Who would have told him?
I see what you're saying. No, it's true. I mean, he's still in a bubble regardless of how much he's grown, right? That is definitely the truth. I do feel like Hailey would tell him it's round.
You're right. Hailey would.
She
if he
knows.
mentioned
She
it,
knows.
there's probably like at least once in the tweet where he says something that's incredibly wrong.
And she rolls her eyes.
And she has to explain to him, like, honey, I need to explain the forces of gravity, okay? There's a thing called gravity. She probably has to explain, I don't know, that there are continents. I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm saying he hasn't had a basic education.
It's fair. And I do feel like that is their dynamic. Exactly. No, you're right. And you know what? I think I am just a little bit paranoid because I'm so used to then turning and then something bad happens. But you're right. The miracles do happen. And he is doing so much better now. And I guess really what we should focus on is the music anyway. And if I listen to those 2 new recent albums, he does seem to be in a pretty good place. Depression, anxiety, addiction, all of these things don't just go away, but it does seem like he's actively working on them and they're dealing with them together. And he's got people on his side who actually think about that now rather than when he was starting and they, I think, probably were ignoring it. Okay. This was like a good time to take one more little break. And then we will be right back for our one last segment.
Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is The Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is The Big Five? That's what The Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. Okay, final segment, Sarah, our favorite. Hindsight is 2026, where we choose the one moment that we might have handled differently if we were the subject of this story. Sarah, what would that be for you? If you were Justin Bieber, imagine.
I think I would have hired myself a tutor. So I could learn about basic things like World War II and who Anne Frank was. So I wouldn't say something like she would have been a believer. I don't know. I would have done that. But also, what teenager is going to learn if you don't force them? Very few, right? He was a cool teen as well. Nerdy teens will learn even if you don't force them. He was a cool teen. He was never going to do that.
Cool teen.
So that's what I would have done because I think he probably would have just been more aware of the world.
Yeah.
And it would have had a positive impact on him. What would you do differently?
I think something similar. I would hire somebody. I think that's always going to be just have somebody, like not a babysitter necessarily, but somebody who maybe is paid by the label, I don't know, but who could have watched out for him or maybe even just better media training. Because I feel like, the Anne Frank incident, the peeing in the bucket, all of these things could have been better handled if he just had better media training. I do get the sense, though, because I remember from that time, he didn't give a shit about media training and probably wouldn't have showed up for it or taken it in. So listen, he was an annoying, obnoxious kid. I don't know how much you could have done to help him at the time, but like, could we have done one less of those little fuck ups? Because I do think the Anne Frank thing catalyzed to a point where it was really rough for him in the media for a while. I mean, God knows he came back fine, but like, yikes.
Yeah. I mean, just there are clips about World War II on YouTube. You're on YouTube too. Like, so just watch YouTube. You actually can educate yourself a lot using YouTube. And I encourage Justin Bieber to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's our episode, Sarah. My concluding point really is, I mean, we've touched on it, but like he had so much scrutiny that he was under a microscope. I think it's rare that it doesn't go down this path because again, we've talked about so many other cases where it was exactly the same. I just hope that for the next generation, at least, they have somebody protecting them and looking out for them that's built into the machine. Because it's him, it's Demi Lovato, it's Miley. They were all in that same era. And I do think the next era, it's going to happen again. So I just wonder, how's it going to be different this time? I really hope it'll be better, but we'll see.
We'll see. Middle age is interesting for a lot of people. I know he's not there yet. But I'm excited for his middle age. I think he's got a lot more gifts to give us. Justin Bieber. Like lots more.
We'll be crooning more. Oh, God. Can you imagine if he puts out like a swaggy album at like 75?
He's going to be there. I'm foreseeing so much longevity in his career.
Truly.
As well as Hailey's. Like, I think there's a world in which Hailey becomes like first lady of the United States.
God, Hailey has no bounds. She can go wherever she wants to go. And Justin, I think, will also have like some really interesting romances also down the line. Again, we don't want these two to be in a bad place. We root for them. But I foresee they will both have very interesting paramours down the road.
I think we're just being realists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I feel like Justin Bieber could write like a Broadway musical. Ooh. I feel like Justin Bieber is going to have an interesting Vegas residency. He might win an Oscar. I feel like he could be an actor maybe.
I'm going to step in and say, let's not do a Vegas residency just because I worry for his. But you know what? On the one hand, it can be good because you stay in one spot, right? But it is a lot of work. But yeah.
If you live in Vegas. And
should you live in Vegas?
No one should.
Okay,
no one should live there.
Redact this
but it
one.
is less work if you live there because you're not like constantly flying back to LA.
He's got addictions that he's dealt with. Is that the place to be?
Is LA the place to be if you have addictions though?
Fair point. He should come back to Canada. He and Hailey did buy a property outside Toronto and they did live there for quite some time after his first rough era. So I feel like he's probably going to settle down here in the end. Jesus.
He could do a residency at Casino Rama.
Oh, boy.
Well, I really want this now.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Okay, thank you to all of you wonderful listeners. You can listen to more of The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear more from me, you can find me on Instagram at Kandahar. I'm not on Twitter anymore. Fuck Twitter. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me at Sahagian Sarah on Instagram. I'm also on Threads. I still don't know how I feel about Threads.
Fair.
Find me on Threads so we can make that community a better place for each other. And if you liked this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe so other listeners can find us too. And if you would like us to keep growing, and we hope that you feel that way, we would really love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat. It's a wonderful way to make sure that this show is sustainable. We want it to keep going for a long time. So if you want to support us, that will mean the world to us. And of course, thanks for listening.